Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time this afternoon again to join for one of these brief team sessions. Um, Today we're going to talk about some mobile medical apps that are available to us, both for resources that we pay for to have for you in the LUCOM library, but also some free resources. And I even want to mention one or two that are available for a small charge through whatever your platform is, if it's an iPhone or in the App Store or an Android phone on the Google Play Store. There's at least one resource there I want you to know about that's very cheap. It's like $4 or $5. But again, today we're talking about mobile medical apps. I'm going to record this, so it'll be available along with all the other team session recordings that I have up on the research guide. So to start off with, I'm going to share a little bit. Can everybody see this PowerPoint that populated here on the screen? This is something I used to be able to share with students at the end of a lecture that Diane and I teach in population-based medicine. I haven't gotten the chance to, we just haven't had time for me to share this in the past couple of times we've done it. So I was going to kind of talk a little bit about some things from this before I jump over to show you where we have some of these resources organized on the research guide. So a few things I wanted people to be aware of. There are a ton of free apps available. There are some that used to be available that I'm not sure are around anymore. PubMed used to have something called PubMed for handheld. They used to have a Pico app that was kind of cool, so you could do evidence-based medicine searches directly on your phone. I don't know what they've done with that. NLM is actually up. PubMed was upgraded within the past couple of years, so it's a little bit different than it used to be. But we do. There's a free app called MedPage, which is more of a kind of just updated medical news. A free point-of-care clinical reference tool that I want everybody to be aware of is called Medscape. And it's kind of the same idea as a UpToDate or a Dynamed if you've ever used something like that, but it's a free resource. It's supported by advertisements, which can be kind of annoying, but for a free resource, it's pretty great. And it also pairs with another resource that's kind of wrapped into it called Calculate, which is a medical calculator by QXMD. So if you create a login for Medscape, you can use that along also with, I misspelled calculate there, but Calculate by QXMD. There's also a free resource from the CDC, which is pretty cool. It's a vaccine schedule, which I know can be something useful for letting your patients know when they're due for different vaccines or boosters. Obviously, there's more vaccines there than just the COVID vaccine, so it's a pretty useful free resource. There are apps that you have access to for resources that we pay for. The LUCOM library pays for you to have access to. I was talking with Dr. Das before we started about Dynamed, really great point-of-care clinical reference tool. It's basically the main competitor for UpToDate. It's made by EBSCO. UpToDate's made by Wolters Kluwer. They're just competing vendors, but they're both point-of-care tools. On the research side, you can download an EBSCO app on your phone, and you can actually choose different databases that we have access to. And one of the ones I wanted to point out that we have is Medline Full Text. It's a really cool resource. It's hosted through EBSCO. And so if you download the EBSCO app to your phone, you can actually get access to full text Medline articles directly through that app. And of course, Clinical Key, a lot of our required textbooks are there. But there's also Clinical Key indexes Medline content as well. So you'll find that there in other journal articles. I won't spend too much time on this because this is really just explaining what it is, but MedPage is kind of like a news and updates resource. You can share articles with colleagues. It's free, but it has advertisements, which can be kind of annoying. This kind of describes some of the sharing and collaboration things you have access to. You can share things on social media like Facebook. And you just navigate through articles. You can get Category 1 credit for CME here, which I know it might not be the lion's share of what you need, but you can read articles and answer questions and get CME through this resource. And I'll mention that how you can get CME through a couple of these other resources as well. Medscape is a free point-of-care clinical reference tool, again, supported by advertisements, so that can be kind of annoying. But if you find yourself in a position where you don't have access to UpToDate or Dynamed, this could be a possible option for you. I'm going to mention it later too, but there's also a free app for the Merck manual. If you're familiar with that, it's another point of care clinical reference tool, and it has professional and consumer level information. We actually have a widget on the research guide that lets you search Merck, but you can get that app for free for your device or your phone. You can get CME also through Medscape with some of the content. And you can browse available CME, and it provides links to articles, and it's earned by reading the content and answering a few questions. And if you want more information about this, please feel free to stop by the library. We can look through it together. Again, there's clinical reference content in here that's available. Just the thing that's annoying about it is that it's supported by advertisements where our access to Dynamed and UpToDate are not. Dynamed, as I mentioned, is a clinical point-of-care clinical reference tool. It's not free, but we purchase access to it, so you all have access to it. It's the main competitor for UpToDate, and as I mentioned before, we got started. It'd be really good to be comfortable with Dynamed because there may come a point when we don't have access to UpToDate. UpToDate is notorious for increasing prices until it's just too expensive to keep. We're in a good position with it right now because we share costs with the Jerry Falwell Library. Their nursing program uses it as well, so we're able to kind of share the burden of it. But at some point, it may become too expensive to keep, and so Dynamed is actually a really great resource, but it's also a lot cheaper, and we'd like to have that in place in case we don't have access to UpToDate at some point. You can get updated info for and related summaries and general information. I won't spend too much time showing how to use it. It's very similar to UpToDate. You get diagnosis and treatment, complications, prognosis. There's drug information. If you've used UpToDate before, you know that it connects to the Lexicomp drug database, which is another resource, but you can find trade names of drugs, brand names of drugs, counterindication drugs, interaction information like that. Dynamed uses something called the IBM Micromedex, which is another drug database, again, just a competitor for Lexicomp. So Dynamed and UpToDate are very comparable to one another. So I would definitely suggest being familiar with both. When you have an account, you can save resources as favorites. You can share through email or printing. You can take notes on resources that you found. Just a really great resource. UpToDate, most people are probably familiar with this. A lot of our preceptors want access to this, and so a lot of our students going on their 3rd and 4th year rotations, the first thing they ask about is UpToDate because their preceptors are familiar with it. A really great resource, a little bit different, but basically the same kind of resource as Dynamed. So it works very much the same way. There's search suggestions. You can save content. You can find drug information. Something kind of cool. You can still find the same information in Dynamed. It's just organized a little bit differently. So when you search, for example, for carpal tunnel syndrome, you can find adult information, pediatric, or patient info if you want to share kind of non-medical speak information with a patient. Again, I won't spend too much time showing exactly how to use UpToDate if you're not familiar with it. So those are just some of the resources available. I wanted to show you something we built in our research guide. So if you go to the LUCOM library page and underneath databases, you'll find research guide. So if you click on that, it takes you to the research guide. We call it a libguide, but that's just what people in libraries call this. We call it a research guide for everybody else. You'll see tabs here across the top where you'll find home, A to Z database, our course guides by semester, course year, and class. And I put a tab here for mobile medical apps. And I would like to build this out some more to include more free apps. But I've put tabs here for Apple and Android. So if you go to this research guide on your phone or your mobile device, even whether it's a Google device or an Apple iPhone or iPad, I've put links to these resources. These links go directly to the app in your store to download for your device. So if you're on your iPhone and you click on this clinical key link, it'll take you to the clinical key app in your app store on your iPhone to download. Same thing for Android. So these are just quick links to get those. And you'll see Dynamed, UpToDate. Here's EBSCO. Something I didn't mention earlier is there's a resource called Diagnosaurus DDX, which is a differential diagnosis resource. And you have access to this on the web. We pay for access to it on the web through McGraw-Hill. So if you go to our, let me go back here a page, and you go to our Where's our A to Z database here? A to Z databases. You should find Diagnosaurus here. Well, I need to put a link there. It's not there. But you have access to Diagnosaurus on the web. The app, there's actually a small charge for. So that's why I put here that it's for purchase. But I don't have a Google device. I have an iPhone, but I think in my app store it was like $4.99. It's very, very cheap. And it's a pretty cool resource that, you know, if you want to have access to it on your phone when you're in front of a patient, it might be worth that $4.99 to download it from your app store or your Google Play Store. I've also put a RSS feed here. There's a website called iMedical Apps, which is related to Medscape, and it's kind of like a blog, but they put app reviews, new apps that are coming out, what's available as clinical reference tools, research tools. It's a really great place to check for what might be new that you're not familiar with. And I've actually subscribed. If you're not familiar with RSS feeds, you can subscribe to updates in an RSS feed, and this is constantly updated with new information. And I put links down here to the feed if you want to subscribe with a feed reader, but I've also put a link to the website, to iMedical Apps, and just to give you an idea what's there. It's got apps by iPhone, by Android, which would be your Google, what are the best ones of the month. You can search by specialty. It's got reviews of new apps and what people are using. So it's just a really useful resource. I showed you that EBSCO, you see a EBSCO download here to link to the EBSCO app, either an Apple or Android. EBSCO is a vendor that provides access to a bunch of resources. In particular, what I like about it is that you'll see here it says searching Medline with full text. We pay for access to Medline with full text, so it's all full text articles that we have that are available through that resource. If you use PubMed, you know that PubMed indexes things that are in Medline as well, but not everything in PubMed is full text. Medline indexes full text content, and when you download this app to your phone, you can choose Medline as the database that you want to see content from. There may be some others there you'd be interested in. I can't show. I was explaining to Dr. Das before we started. I wanted to be able to mirror my iPhone screen onto my desktop, but I couldn't find a tool to let me do that today. But you can choose databases in the app, and you'll find all the databases that EBSCO indexes that you can have access to. So Medline with full text is the big one I want you to be aware of. There's also psychiatry and behavioral medicine database that you can include content from in that EBSCO app. It looks like I froze up my EBSCO for some reason, but the big one I want you to know that's available through the EBSCO app is your Medline with full text, and also some psychiatric and behavioral medicine. Visible Body. I didn't put a link to the Visible Body app in here under my mobile medical apps, because you actually click a link on the Visible Body site to get the app, so you would navigate to the resource on your phone. So if you pulled up a browser on your phone, whether it was Safari or Chrome, whatever your device is, and you'll click on that Visible Body link, and it takes a second to get there, but we're going to click on the Human Anatomy Atlas, and if you scroll down here, you'll find a link that says Mobile Apps, and this is how you actually want to get the app for Visible Body, because it's going to authenticate it for your device. And what's really cool, at least I know for iPhones, is they've integrated augmented reality for their app on your phone. So you can actually open this app on your iPhone and take your camera and look at a flat surface, and it'll put a 3D model of a cadaver there that you can move around. You can take layers in and out. Really, really cool. And we pay for access for you guys to have access to this. Let's see, there's a couple more things because we're running out of time. Oh, the last thing I want to show you, as far as this, so a lot of these are like we've talked about our clinical point of care reference tools, maybe not Visible Body so much, but if you're more interested in research, like say you were using the EBSCO for Medline with full text, you can also subscribe to RSS feeds for new information as articles are being published. If you use a feed reader, not everybody uses them. I think they're kind of neat. Like for example, I subscribe to this RSS feed for iMedical app, so this is constantly updated. But say you want to put a feed reader on your phone, This is an example of one that's available for your iPhone in the App Store. You can go to the App Store and search for, sometimes they're called aggregators or RSS feed reader, but you can find this one's the one, feeder.co is available for the iPhone. I don't use Chrome, or I mean, I don't use the Android phone, but it's the same thing in Google Play. You can find feed readers that you can put apps onto your phone. And what that will let you do is, if say you go to our PubMed here, we're looking in PubMed, and say I want to find COVID. This is obviously a very basic. I want to do a more advanced search than this, but I do a COVID-19 search, and that brings up current publications that are indexed in PubMed. And you'll see this link here that says create RSS. So if you have a feed reader app on your phone, this will give you the feed that you want to. You'll take this and copy it into your feed reader, and then you'll just open up that app on your phone, and you'll be able to have updated articles that even if you just don't go back to PubMed, you can just open your feed reader app and see new articles as they're published. One of the examples I did for this, if you go to the research guide, I've actually just found trending articles in PubMed. This is not a mobile app, but it's a RSS feed reader. This is like some of the most current. You'll see these were just published today. Role of neural tuning and quantity perception. I'm not even sure what that means, but this is something you can put onto an app on your phone. So those are the things I wanted to show you. I went 1 minute over. I'm sorry. There's probably more I could talk about, but I'm trying to keep these condensed into 15 minutes. So thank you guys for your time. And again, I'm going to save this recording, and I'm going to post it underneath our brief how-to sessions here on the research guide. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.